This is Middle East Brief with Avi Kaner, your daily intelligence update on what actually matters.
The European Union does not fully designate Hezbollah as a terrorist organization. Let that sink in. Europe officially labels only Hezbollah's so-called military wing as terrorist, not the organization as a whole, not its political and financial leadership. Even Hezbollah itself says a distinction is fake. Hezbollah is not two separate organizations. It is one integrated structure, one leadership, one command hierarchy, one ideological movement backed by Iran, and, most importantly, one financial network that funds both its business and terror activities. Its political apparatus, military operations, intelligence activities, propaganda systems, charities, recruitment networks, and international financing operations all function together. In other words, Europe created a distinction that Hezbollah itself does not recognize. So, why does the European Union shamefully maintain this position? Because of politics. Several European governments historically argued that preserving ties to Hezbollah's political wing would help maintain diplomatic channels inside Lebanon. Others feared that fully designating Hezbollah could destabilize Lebanese politics or complicate relations with Beirut. The result was a compromise policy that had done the exact opposite. It has destabilized Lebanon and the region. Hezbollah-linked operatives, financial networks, fundraising structures, businesses, charities, and influence organizations continue operating in Europe, undermining Lebanon while supporting terrorism. And that has enormous consequences, because money is fungible. Cash flowing into Hezbollah-linked institutions does not remain neatly separated inside accounting spreadsheets. The same financial ecosystem that supports Hezbollah's political and social infrastructure sustains the organization's power structure and terrorist capabilities. This has allowed Hezbollah to maintain fundraising, recruitment, logistics, money laundering, and procurement activity across Europe for years. In effect, the European Union is enabling Hezbollah to maintain one of the largest terrorist arsenals on earth. And this is not a theoretical issue. Hezbollah has been linked to terrorist attacks and plots far beyond the Middle East, tied directly to the Iranian regime's broader regional strategy. But there is another consequence of Europe's policy that receives far less attention. It is also a profound disservice to Lebanon itself, because millions of Lebanese are trying to reclaim their country's sovereignty after decades of political paralysis, corruption, economic collapse, and foreign interference. Many Lebanese across religious and political lines increasingly resent the reality that Hezbollah effectively operates as a state within a state, an armed organization stronger than the Lebanese military itself, a movement that has dragged Lebanon into regional war, a proxy force answering directly to the Iranian regime. And every time Europe treats Hezbollah's political structure as somehow legitimate or separable from its military machine, it reinforces that distorted reality. It weakens the very Lebanese institutions that Europe claims to support. It signals that Lebanon's sovereignty remains negotiable. And it undermines Lebanese reformists, moderates, journalists, intellectuals, and activists who have spent years warning that Hezbollah's dominance is suffocating the country. Because the tragedy of Lebanon is not simply economic collapse. It is a slow erosion of national sovereignty itself. A country once known as the Paris of the Middle East, transformed into a battlefield for Iranian regional ambitions, and many Lebanese know it, especially after the Beirut port explosion, the financial collapse, and years of political dysfunction. The irony is extraordinary. Europe constantly speaks about defending democracy, sovereignty, and pluralism. Yet, on Hezbollah, the European Union still operates inside a diplomatic fantasy that the organization can somehow be normalized. Some European countries eventually broke from that approach. Germany fully banned Hezbollah in 2020. Other countries followed with stronger restrictions. But the broader European Union policy remains incomplete and internally conflicted. And that reveals something deeper about modern Europe's geopolitical mindset: a reluctance to fully confront ideological extremism when doing so becomes politically uncomfortable, a tendency toward legal nuance and diplomatic ambiguity even when facing organizations openly committed to violence, and a persistent belief that hostile movements can be moderated through engagement, despite decades of evidence showing otherwise. Meanwhile, Iran continues expanding its regional influence through proxies across Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Hezbollah remains one of the central pillars of that strategy. The reality is simple. Organizations do not stop being terrorist organizations because they also hold parliamentary seats. Militias do not become moderate because they participate in elections. And movements openly committed to armed jihad do not suddenly become normal political actors because diplomats find the alternative inconvenient. That may be the central illusion at the heart of Europe's shameful Hezbollah policy.
This is Middle East Brief with Avi Kaner. If you want clarity, not noise, follow and share. Continue the conversation on X at Avi Kaner. Back tomorrow